Culture, media and sport. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us on the programme this morning. We want to talk about the Commonwealth Games, of course, but can I just pick up on that polling? Apparently Boris Johnson is not at all popular with the public. What would you say to that?
Well, I'd say there's only one poll which ever matters, Kay, and that's the poll that takes place during a general election. And Boris Johnson won as an 80-seat majority at the last general election less than 3 years ago. There are polls come and go, and I'm afraid I don't actually take an awful lot of notice of them because there's only one that matters. And as you know, we won an 80-seat majority.
Absolutely.
Under Boris Johnson.
Yes, indeed. He's going to be finding it hard to celebrate the Commonwealth Games, though, isn't he, because of what has happened. What has the nation lost, do you think, as far as Boris Johnson is concerned when he resigned?
So I think he lost somebody who took us through a pandemic, who gave the Conservative Party, my party, an 80-seat majority, something that hasn't happened since for 40 years. He gave us a mandate. He took us through a pandemic, which has had global repercussions. He led us and was the first global leader to help Ukraine and helped us lead an effort to support Ukraine through Putin's barbaric attack. He ensured and guaranteed that we were the first country in the world to get a vaccination into somebody's arm as part of the war on COVID. And also helped to take us into economic growth out of the pandemic. So I think Boris Johnson's achieved a huge amount. And for me, they are the signs of a great leader, what they achieve when they're in office. And I think he did that.
You were devastated, weren't you, when it happened? Tell us how you felt.
I was very disappointed. I thought it was a huge mistake. But what I would say is that in Liz Truss, we have somebody who has both integrity and loyalty and is able to pick up the baton using those very important qualities to take the country forward. So I think, what happened has happened. We have to look to the future now. And for me personally, I'm looking to Liz Truss, who I think has many of those qualities and will be able to step into the role as Prime Minister from day one, hit the ground running, and be able to deal with some of the very complex problems that we're facing as a nation as a result of a global pandemic and because of the war in Ukraine, the effects of which are still going on today and we will still feel for the future to come.
To what extent do you blame Rishi Sunak for Boris Johnson's demise?
So look, I don't want to get into so as you can see, Kay, behind me, there are dancers at this early hour of the morning.
I'm coming on to that. Yeah, I'll come on to that, as I said right at the beginning. I'm asking you to what extent do you blame Rishi Sunak for Boris Johnson's demise?
So it is not a secret that things happen that shouldn't have happened, and that Boris Johnson was removed via a coup, but I don't know if you can hear behind me, in Birmingham, the first day of the Commonwealth Games, which is going to be the most successful Commonwealth Games ever to have been held.
I'm going to talk all about that with you. I just want to know what you think,
including volunteers and athletes.
I want to know what you think about Rishi Sunak and to what extent he was responsible for the demise of Boris Johnson. And then we will come on to the Games in the fullness of time.
Look, Kate, I don't want to, today, because it's the opening of the Commonwealth Games, because we have the Lionesses going to Wembley on Sunday, because these few days are going to be fantastic sporting events, not just for sport, not just for the Commonwealth, but for women particularly. Today is the day I don't want to engage in the leadership. I want to talk about the really important things that are happening here in Birmingham and the West Midlands and in Wembley on Sunday, because I'm the Secretary of State for DCMS. This is what my department has been working on. We even have one of our own civil servants competing from my department in the Commonwealth Games today. For me, the next few days are not about leadership. They're about showcasing what is great about this country, what is great about the West Midlands, and what is the important things that are happening here in Birmingham today.
So the leadership race isn't important for the next few days?
So the leadership race is going to go on all through the summer and will conclude on September the 5th, at which point we will have a new leader and a new Prime Minister. For the next few days, please forgive me, but I am going to focus on what we've been working on in my department for years before I arrived. You know, we delivered these games in 4.5 years. It takes 7 normally. We delivered them on budget. The government's invested over £600 million in these games. For me, today is an important day. It's the opening of something we've been working on as a government and as a department over a number of years. I mean, forgive me, I want to focus on the positives about what's happening here, the athletes who are here competing, the thousands of volunteers that we have working here, and the buzz which is in this city today. There's been nothing as big as this in this country since 2012 in the Olympics. It's a really important day, and I think we should be focusing on the positives.
And shall we be spending £778 million on a vanity project?
It's not a vanity project, Kay. Come on. This is hugely important. You're saying we shouldn't have the Commonwealth Games? I think we are proud and honoured to have picked up the baton when it was dropped elsewhere in the world and to continue to run these Commonwealth Games in the amazing way that we have done. Everybody here, thousands of people, are extremely proud, including the volunteers behind me right now, extremely proud of what we're doing. And you know, the Commonwealth, it's an important organisation, particularly in light of what's happening globally on the geopolitical front, and particularly with Russia and China and the war in Ukraine. It's more important than ever. These games, they symbolise that. They symbolise the coming together of those nations. So of course it should be. It's not a vanity project. It's an important project, and it's one we should continue.
£778 million when we've got a cost of living crisis, though.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that. Could you say that again?
£778 million when we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. I'm asking you to talk to my viewers this morning and tell them why you think it's worth that sort of money when they can't feed their kids.
Sorry, Kay, the government, I'm afraid we're going to have to go. Now, the government...
You should. Why should I? What are you going to do?
We're going to have to go, Kay, I'm sorry.
Don't touch me then.
Why?
The camera's with a bit of trouble. I'm going to go.
Or anybody. Touch me then. You can't, because I'll have you arrested for assault.
He's
by
not
teachers.
touching you.
He can't touch me, madam. What do you mean he ain't touching me? He can't. I'll have him arrested in 5 seconds flat. Touch me then. Anybody in there touch me, it's assault by beating. 1 finger and you miss.
It's the security.
1 finger. Oh, you're a cameraman. Cameraman, touch me if you're bad. 1 finger, you'll be arrested.
Cameraman did not touch him.
1 finger is assault by beating. Touch me then. If anyone touches me, I'm calling the police. But touch me then. You could be God.
You okay?
You could be God, sir. Put 1 finger on me today and you spend it up. No. Put 1 finger on me, anybody, you'll spend the afternoon in the police cell. No, you watch your fucking rubbish.
Okay, I think...
It certainly was, but I was more worried about the cameraman and the crew, actually. So, but yeah, it's okay.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I was trying to make the point with you and give you the opportunity to reply to a report that I was reading about the legacy of sporting events around the world and how they promise a lot, but actually, once the bandwagon moves on, the people that are left behind don't have what they are promised. For example, 30,000 homes promised for London 2012. Only 13,000 have so far been delivered. How would you respond to reports like that?
Well, so I would question that, actually, because so much as you only got to go into East London to be able to see the legacy that was left behind by the 2012 Olympics. And what I would say here is, over the past year, I visited the Sandwell Aquatic Centre, which has been purpose-built for the Commonwealth Games here in Birmingham, and that's being left for the people of the local community to use. I don't know if you've been there with your cruise yet, but it is an amazing facility that's being left behind. You know, we've invested as a government over £600 million into Birmingham and the Commonwealth Games, and a huge amount of that will be left behind in terms of legacy and ongoing legacy. And it's interesting you should mention the 2012 Games, Kay, because I think most people can remember what they were doing in 2012, and they know how they felt at that time. And you speak to people about the Olympics, it's a very positive story they have to tell. And I think the investment here in Birmingham and in the West Midlands will leave a similar legacy, not just in house building or in aquatic centres, but in the good that's created for the community and how positive people feel about Birmingham, and actually shining a light on Birmingham, putting Birmingham and the West Midlands on the map. And that is just as important, because that's the soft power impact that something like the Commonwealth Games brings to a city like Birmingham and a region like the West Midlands. And that's all positive, good stuff.
You staying with your brief, you talked about the Lionesses, and we're all hoping that they roar on Sunday
I'm
night.
being told I'm...
Can I just ask you about the
I'm
Lionesses,
being told
if I may,
have to go.
please? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to ask you about the Lionesses, if I may. This is definitely on your brief. 44% of secondary schools in England allow girls to play football. Is that something that you will look at?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a number of schools actually with girls' football teams, and I think education schools are taking a really positive attitude towards women in sport. You know, women in sport, they don't get the same amount of sponsorship, attention, media time, and just recognition for how important women's sport is. And I think the Commonwealth Games, the Lionesses, particularly on Sunday night, they are going to, in their own way, help to keep that progress going and to move forward with both football and other sports which we know women just don't feel represented in. So, you know, the Commonwealth Games, it's a good, positive news story all round for women, for the inclusivity that this Commonwealth Games is representing, hosting together both female sports and para sports, and it's all happening in those 11 days, taking place here in Birmingham, and it's just all positive, good news for sport, for women, and for Birmingham particularly.
Would you like to see Eurovision in Birmingham
and now
as well?
I do have to go. I'm really sorry.
Would you like to see Eurovision in Birmingham as well?
Sorry.
Would you?
I couldn't possibly comment. Okay, I couldn't possibly comment. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.